Hi, and welcome to episode 3 of the Onward and Upward podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, Ben, once more, as well as our special guest, Rob Schwab. Great having you with us. And just as a reminder who we are, Onward and Upward podcast, our hope is that we would encourage you to move onward in your daily walk with the Lord, with each other, with your family, your friends, people that you come in contact with, loving on them, sharing your life with them, as well as to move upward in your faith with God and your relationship with God, and to grow closer to Him. So Philippians 3, 12 through 16, Ben, you wanted to share that?
Going to read that. We always like to get this stuck in our head, right? Scripture's good. So
exactly.
It says, "No, dear brothers and sisters, I have not achieved it, but I focus on this one thing. Forgetting the past and looking forward to what lies ahead, I press on to reach the end of the race and receive the heavenly prize for which God, through Christ Jesus, is calling us. Let all who are spiritually mature agree on these things. If you disagree on some point, I believe God will make it plain to you. But we must hold on to the progress we have already made."
Yeah, right on. And as usual, we want to start with some levity. So I have a few. I have one statement. I came across an article called "Shower Thoughts," epiphanies that you have while in the shower, as you will. And so here's the first one that I don't know made me giggle a little bit. Whoever named waterfalls was some lazy person. Right? Like when I read it the first time, I'm like, okay. And then I think about it a few more times. I'm like, wow. Somebody came along and went, the water's falling. Right? So simple, but how often? I've never thought of that before, but
yeah,
it's good.
Some lazy person. A question for you, okay? Is almost infinite close to infinite? Is almost infinite close to infinite?
it's definitely contradictory.
Well, right. Like
you can't be almost an infinite.
But also, could you be infinitely close?
Probably not.
I think it's got to be in its own category, right?
Right?
Like you can't almost be. Yeah.
So infinite is like untouchable, right? So can you be almost infinite?
I don't think so.
Is that close? Yeah.
No, because it's still finite.
But what if you're infinitely close? So like it's just always right behind.
I guess I've never heard anyone say infinitely close.
Infinitely close.
Somebody was spending too much time in the shower.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's too long of a shower at that point. You run out of hot water, I think. Yeah.
Okay, here's a simple question. How long is the average shower?
For who?
For you.
That's a good question.
For me, I
Are you a warm water guy?
I average 10 to 15.
Or are you a cold water?
No, I'm warm.
Warm.
I don't do hot though.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless I have a fever, then I don't know why I like it hot then.
Only when you have a fever.
Yeah, because I'm shaking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right on. I haven't heard that one before.
It's a soothing thing. Yeah, I've done that before.
Right on.
Yeah.
But then you get out of the shower and you're just drained. Like soaked all your energy out.
Yeah. I'm a cold shower person.
What?
Oh yeah.
Like no hot at all?
It's warm. It's like warm, lukewarm maybe at the beginning, but it's cold.
That's probably why you have hair. I've
It's
heard hot water burns
yeah.
the follicles.
I haven't thought about that before.
Some.
I have such a good head of hair because I shower cold.
Yeah, I think it preserves the life. It's like a refrigerator for your follicles.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm gonna take that one with me, man. That's a nugget of truth. I'm never gonna forget.
I bet it's not true, but
nope.
We'll
you said it. You said it, and because you said
I have
it,
a master's
it's
degree.
true.
Yeah,
there you go.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Last epiphany for you. Is tomato soup just a hot tomato smoothie?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Especially if you just add milk to it. Because some tomato soup, it's basically tomato concentrate blended up with milk.
Yeah, but how do you drink a smoothie? You don't drink a smoothie with a spoon.
Oh,
like you don't eat
not
a
normally.
smoothie. You drink a smoothie.
Yeah.
Do you drink tomato soup? Like this for me, this is where.
But here's the
deal.
There's
a line there, isn't there?
But Campbell's soup, I don't know if they still sell it, but they sold this microwavable, drinkable soup. Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Like tomato juice.
No. It was tomato soup, and you were supposed to like.
Yeah. It didn't say.
Yeah.
It didn't say tomato soup on the thing.
Yeah.
Nuh-uh.
It was a special release they did. Yeah, for a while.
If there's any
limited release because no one bought it.
Yeah, maybe.
if there's any chewing involved, it's eating. So if you put crackers and cheese,
Well, there you go. Then you change it
then
into it.
you know.
Okay, so that's where you draw the line.
Otherwise, it's just warmed up V8 juice.
And then you'd consider that just a hot
Drink it.
smoothie.
Right. Yeah.
Would you drink it? Like if I handed you a piping hot glass of tomato soup, you'd be like, "Thank you, may I have another?"
My dad used to drink soup out of like a cup.
Out of a cup?
Yeah, he
Okay.
just wouldn't use a spoon much, but yeah.
Well, there you go.
He was a little weird though. He's
Wow,
still
weird isn't
he's
bad.
still alive. He's still alive. so.
Weird isn't bad. Yeah. And then also, I was talking to Ben, and we're all dads here.
Uh-huh.
You gotta love a good, bad dad joke, right? So I printed off 135. We're not gonna go through all of them.
No.
But I've got a few. From what I've seen, the idea is to try to make you all laugh.
Okay.
And for you guys to try not to laugh. I'm terrible at trying not to laugh, so I'm gonna suck at this game. But, you do it surprisingly. When I do this kind of thing with youth, they're surprisingly good at not laughing. Totally, like first time I did it, right? So I've been doing youth ministry 10 plus, and first time I did it, I thought it'd be easy, just knock them over, and they just stare at you like nothing happened.
And they get it. Like they get
They get the joke and nothing.
They're like, nah, whatever.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like,
They're
I thought this was going to be easy. Yeah, like, do you not know funny when you hear funny? Like, what in the world? So
I feel that way about their music though too. Do you not know good
Yeah.
music?
Do you not know good
It's
music?
absolutely true.
Oh, goodness. What is good music?
Well, I mean, I think Blink 182 from
Okay,
the past.
okay.
Coldplay,
Yeah.
are good,
Okay.
but they're not digestible now to kids. And
Yeah,
that is not an
They're
affirmation
considered
of
old by all means.
Blink 182 is not safe for the whole family. Just so you know,
Yeah,
that was back when I
right.
was a teenager.
That's
but,
right.
yeah,
A
just
past life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Back when I was dead in my trespasses and
There
sins.
it is. Yeah. Oh, goodness. It is. It's all a matter of perspective.
Yeah.
So I'll start.
Yeah.
Um,
Go for it.
multiple of these tickled me, so I'm going to try to keep a straight face as I say it. But imagine if you walked into a bar and there was a long line of people waiting to take a swing at you. That's the punch line.
Oh, we're not supposed to laugh.
Now it's
Yeah,
supposed to-
good job.
You go.
All right. So this is in honor of Dave Moore, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And what do you call a beehive without an exit? Unbelievable.
Shoot.
Oh, funny.
I'm not
yeah.
supposed to.
I got it.
I'm not supposed
Yeah.
to laugh.
I got one. How does a cat like his steak?
I want to say meow, but that has nothing to do with it.
Rare.
Pretty good. Classic.
I
dad
got
joke.
one that's not on here. Why did I wear 2 pairs of pants when I went golfing? Because I thought I might get a hole in one,
Oh, that's good. That's a good one.
right?
I like it.
No laughs though.
No
So
laughs.
we succeeded.
Yep, we held off on that one. Ben, you got another one?
I hate it when people say age is only a number. Age is clearly a word.
Yeah, that is a dad joke.
That's a dad joke. Absolutely.
Why is it a bad idea to iron your 4-leaf clover? Because you shouldn't press your luck.
Oh. Mm-hmm. I held it back.
I know. I'm like stifling.
If 2 vegans get in a fight, is it still considered a beef?
Good question.
It's I'd like to ask. In fact, I know of a vegan that lives in town. I have to ask her that.
You have to find 2 though. That'd be hard.
That's
true.
right. You'd
That's
have to
true.
find
Yeah.
2.
Actually, I don't know if you need to find 2 because usually a vegan can fight with just about anyone. So.
Sure.
My wife
Just
said
like
I was immature, so I told her to get on my fort.
Did you guys
Yeah,
hear
you
about?
can't hold that back that one because I can totally see that happening in your. I can see you and the boys.
I'm trying to hold it back, but shoot.
Did you guys hear about those new corduroy pillows? Yeah,
No.
they're making headlines.
Mm-hmm. So, dipping into my past, I used to be in FFA. Of course, the only have the little blue and gold corduroy jackets. Yeah, you don't want to wad that jacket up and sleep on it in the bus because you end up with that.
Because they have corduroy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such an amazing pattern.
All right, so I got to say this one just in honor of the fact that we've got a native Minnesotan here. So
Goodness.
yeah, so this is
Why are the Minnesotans the butt of everyone's joke?
But
I mean,
I'm
come
giving
on.
I'm giving
We're
away the
quite
punchline.
normal.
It's all right. So which U.S. state is famous for its extra small soft drinks? Minnesota.
Oh yeah.
Minnesota. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not too bad.
No,
too bad.
it's not too
No,
bad.
that's not too bad. What concert? Hey, this is okay. Music. What
Sure.
concert costs 45 cents? 50 Cent featuring Nickelback.
Oh.
Okay.
Nice. That would be a terrible concert.
I know. It would be a horrible
Yeah,
concert.
that's a really bad combination.
I don't know if I could pay 45 cents for that.
50 Cent featuring Nickelback. I told you I was reading through some of these. Making me giggle. How many apples grow on a tree? All of them.
Oh yeah.
No, that would work. Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know, made you feel dumb there, didn't
Yeah,
I?
very tricky.
I read that without reading the punchline, and I was like, "Oh man, I really want to try to figure that out." And then I kept reading. Oh, gotcha.
All right, this is my last one.
Okay.
So a Vicks Vapor Rub truck overturned on the highway this morning. Amazingly, there was no congestion for 8 hours.
Okay.
So you
I held off on that one.
Yeah, you got to know.
Rob, did you have any more you wanted to throw out there? I got
can't
one
think
more.
of any. Go ahead.
Did you hear the rumor about butter? Well, I'm not going to spread it.
That's good.
All right, enough laughing.
Some good quality ones.
Goodness. Yeah. Hey, thanks for indulging us in
Yeah.
some bad dad jokes. Let's transition into some current events.
Yeah.
We have a couple here, and hopefully, Rob, you can speak on some of this. But one of them, the first one, is the effect that technology is having on teens sleeping. And this article is about, it's from newscentermaine.com, and it's about teenagers and sleep. And actually, they're seeing, through their study, they're seeing grades falling consistently because of lack of sleep. And why is there lack of sleep? They're seeing within the study that a large percentage of them is because of screen time.
Mm-hmm.
They're so fixed on the screen. The study showed that an average of 9 hours a day since COVID hitting, that students are looking at an electronic screen.
Wow.
9 hours a day.
That's crazy.
So I was reading this article and prep for tonight, and I appreciate you bringing it up because it's a big deal, and I think
Huge.
well,
And not just for teens. That's my
no,
point.
it's for everybody. And but I think, pre-COVID, and I think we're gonna have a lot of that terminology for the next several years,
yeah.
pre and post-COVID.
Decades.
But I think the average kid probably in our neck of the woods in the wintertime, guess what they're doing? I mean, we didn't even have any snow really to speak of this last winter. So, going outside and hanging out and doing stuff and being active apart from a screen of some kind is normally a bit of a challenge for a lot of families in our neck of the woods where it's cold.
Right.
But you combine that, and all of a sudden we kick the kids out of the classroom
Yep.
last spring, this time of year, last year. And they're automatically starting to interface with screens for their schoolwork.
Yeah.
And, the trend has always been there, but there was a big ramp up in that. So, then you end up with a whole bunch of other activity that my kids, have iPads, or not iPads. They got, tablets that they
Yep.
use and enjoy doing stuff and playing games. And, you combine all that time, and yeah, it's a lot. So as a dad looking at my kids, I'm thinking about, well, yeah, especially this summertime. And the nice thing is my kids like to go outside and play and jump on the trampoline and stuff too, and do other things. We like to go.
Why do they like doing that, though? Could it be because mom and dad have encouraged them?
Yeah, I think there's a combination. A lot of times they're dragging us out there, so that's
right.
good.
Well,
but,
innately, most kids like being outdoors.
yeah, they do.
As long as there's some encouragement, I've seen at
Yeah.
least to be out there.
Yeah.
It's. I look at this. It feels kind of like COVID was just a little shove over the already growing trend. that it just was like the last little push, and now it's snowballed into this huge thing. I'm curious, have you seen any of these kind of things? Have you seen, we're going to get to it obviously later on and talk about just what you've seen, COVID and the effects of COVID and the pandemic and shutdown and coming back and all that kind of stuff has had on our society, our community. But have you seen anything like this affecting teenagers, the sleep, the screen time? Curious.
So I haven't seen a whole lot of teenagers since COVID. It's been a couple. It's actually the little kids that I've noticed the most with.
Really?
Like I'll get kids with some pretty bad behavioral problems. And one thing I'll ask is how much screen time they're getting. And they tend to be indulging quite a bit. And it's almost as if, and it's a little bit strange, but it's almost as if they're having withdrawals from it. Similar to like a way a drug addict or a dry drunk, if they're not getting their alcohol, they're crabby.
Yeah.
And if
They
you're
miss
crabby,
the dopamine.
yeah, and you're irritable,
Wow.
you're gonna be picking fights more. You're gonna be oppositional, and so obviously screen time you can do that in moderation and do it healthy, but again, like the dopamine drip, it's a steady, slow drip, and it can have a very similar effect to addiction withdrawals. So I don't know. I'm just like, how old are you?
I'm 30.
30?
43.
43. So we grew up 80s, 90s,
Yeah.
somewhere in there. All right. So, I mean, we are the bridge, obviously, over
Right.
The old ways and the new
Exactly.
ways. So I do remember predominantly playing outside. But I also remember my cousin having a Nintendo.
Oh, yeah.
Mario 1, and he had Skate or Die. I don't know if you guys know that game.
Yep.
But a lot of cool games. And I would, like, look forward to the days when I could go over to his house to
Definitely.
play. You know, like it was a definite dopamine feel that I fell in love with video games early. So I mean that's when games like were terrible. Like they're amazing now.
Yeah.
Like I just can't imagine.
You can get lost in video games now because of just how much you can be immersed into a fantasy world. You can escape all of reality now, basically, in such a realistic second world.
I think the biggest difference is that when you died in Nintendo, you had to start all the way over.
Oh yeah.
And then I'd be like, no, I'm not doing that, and I'd go outside and play.
I can still remember Nintendo a game called 1941. It was a war. You're in a plane and you're going through, and there's 100 levels, and you start at 100, and you go every level you pass, you go down. So that's how you knew like you were getting close to level 1. And my brothers, no joke, they got all the way down to I think level 3 or level 2. And if you remember the old Nintendo, we're talking the old gray box Nintendo with the game where you put in and then press down, right? And you go, right. Terrible. Yep. And I think it was either me or my younger brother. We walked by and we tripped on it.
No.
Oh yeah, and you know what happens if you accidentally if you whisper something at that Nintendo, it resets. They were lit.
Wow.
They were not happy, right? But just the same thing. If you died, all the way back to the beginning, there was no save button. There was no coming back from it.
That's the equivalent of like the stock market crashing.
Right.
For a kid.
It was horrible.
That's real bad.
Yeah. We left the room.
Yeah.
we knew better
point
than
to
to stay around.
Right.
Exit immediately.
That's funny.
Well, part of what this article talked about too is that not just how much time total, but when during the day are they, doing it. So, if they're sitting in their room up until 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, right before they're supposed to go to bed, and they're hanging out in their bed, looking at whatever a game is or an iPad or a tablet or a phone or whatever it is, right? It's hard for, especially kids that are struggling with ADHD and ADD to be able to transition and go to sleep, right? So that, and there's a lot of studies that talk about the influence of blue light on your brain, and if you can set that aside for the first, at least a half hour before you go to sleep, preferably longer, it allows your brain to kind of settle down.
Yeah, I think Paul said that studies that he had read, if you can do it an hour or 2 hours prior to sleeping, helps you fall asleep quicker
Sure.
and deeper. You hit your REM cycle earlier in your sleep, and it carries on longer in your sleep. And
Sure.
yeah, and that's where my mind goes is, as adults, do we practice moderation with screens?
I don't.
Can we? Like, to what extent can you? Right? So obviously the word can is pretty subjective, right? Because we all have our own definition of what can really means. Like, yeah, I can stop looking at, Facebook for a half hour, right? But someone else, Ben might be like, well, I can for 2 hours, whatever.
Sure.
It's all pretty relative, but I mean, I struggle. I struggle with screen time. I'm reading this article about teenagers in school. I'm like, am I really as productive as I can be? Right. It's not just teenagers.
No,
I'm
it's
watching
everybody.
adults all around me,
Right.
Yeah.
and they're walking through the grocery store or Costco, and they're just like this. I kid you not. Now, I will say, and we've talked about this, we're kind of the bridge generation. And so I was playing basketball at Assembly of God Church, and I was sitting down, and there's two gentlemen that were older than me, and then on my left, and then there was two gentlemen on my right that were young. Both of them were younger than me. The two on my left were sitting and talking with one another. The two on my right were texting each other. And I kid you not.
And you were right in the middle.
And I was sitting in between, and I look, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And I look, well, that's fascinating, right? It was, wow, this moment of just the difference in generations,
And you got out your Game Boy and started playing it.
That's right, Game Boy.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. There's another blast from the past.
Hey, they made travel so much better for my parents. I can tell you that right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So
No, I'm
like
just
with our
joking.
kids, we try to practice moderation. My oldest, he wants to play Forza, a racing game on the Xbox, and I say no probably 90% of the time. He really likes it, and understandably so. I like it.
Sure.
But
It's a hard game.
It
It's a
is.
really hard game.
He does pretty good. He stays right on the road.
Huh.
He hasn't won a race yet. That's pretty far away from him still, but he can track down that road.
Sure.
But yeah, it's such a hard thing. But I don't know. For me, this article, threw kind of a red light in my mind of,
Sure.
do I practice this kind of moderation? What would, I don't know, what are your thoughts? Like, what would your life look like if you took a step forward in moderation of screen time?
Yeah, so I think in general, and this is my personal situation right now, because I've switched jobs to a job where I'm more of my job is interacting with phone and computer than previous to that. I think it would be healthy for me personally to carve out a certain amount of time every day where I'm intentionally not, and usually that'd be the best thing to do would be in the evening when my family's around anyway, so right? But then as the father of the household and a leader of the household is to not only model that, but then say, hey, let's put the devices away at 8 o'clock, 8:30, whatever, 7:30, whatever we as the family decide is good. And that helps to instill that discipline of, hey, I can be doing other things, my family loves board games, and that kind of thing. So why don't we do some of the more of that stuff? And when I was growing up, it was TVs. That was the screen we were dealing with a lot of times.
Right. Late night shows.
And I remember my parents. They had a TV in their room. So, and a lot of parents have a TV in their bedroom and stuff. So
yeah, I have a lot of fond memories of watching movies with my
Sure.
dad, old war movies and different things like that. It'll come on, and I look at my wife like, oh, I've watched this movie I think probably like 10, 20 times
Right.
with my dad. So that there definitely is a place of positive screen time, but obviously there's a line of too much.
Right.
But man, I think it's a hard line to toe sometimes too, and both finding that line of what's a healthy amount, what's a reality amount. Like, this is, like you said, for your job, your phone is your lifeline to all your clients and things like that. So you can't, unless you want to give up your job, you can't really give that up. That's how they want to get a hold of you.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
but yeah.
I mean, I feel like there's two aspects of it. One is how much time
Yeah.
Do you want to limit the amount of time? The other aspect is how intense, like, are you drawn to it? Like, is it becoming such a love that it's like entering the idolatry category?
Yeah, right.
So even if you don't spend that much time, I do think that our time does count as an indicator of our love. I know that I've vacillated a lot throughout the years. My wife can vouch for this. Like, where I've gone from like just like binge watching shows and playing video games, like in a really addictive sort of way, and then being like, all right, nothing, and I just quit everything.
Yeah.
You know, log out of all the accounts and just like
done.
Go back to caveman living.
Right.
You know, and somewhere in the middle, I think, is the right spot. You know how like Apple sends you a screen time update. You're like, you were down 4 hours this week. You're like, wow, that's pretty good. Been killing it. I wonder if when we get to heaven, we're gonna have like a screen time like print off. You're like, you spent 2 million hours in front of the TV. I thought I called you to do other things, but I don't know. That makes you feel gross. You know, thinking about it. I know that not every hour we have on earth is meant to be spent being productive. We're obviously supposed to spend some time resting, enjoying. So we don't want to be over the top, like
taskmaster.
Yeah, legalistic. Like, I wasted 5 minutes. I could have been evangelizing. You know. But at the same time, I do think that the luxuries we have and the prosperity we have makes us sloppy in our Christianity. And boy, I don't think we're extra bad for it. I think it's just an effect that happens to unpersecuted churches. So I guess we're
to be aware of it.
Yeah, right. Well, even being aware of it, I'm not sure how much it changes.
Well, and you have the issue of the quantity. We've been talking a lot about quantity, but then you have the quality. You know, what exactly are you consuming? You know, I tend to be a geek and I'm chasing all kinds of information all the time. But
I know you're one of those people that like school.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So, well, not all school.
Not all school. That's true. School that pertains to your field.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
But then you got, you know, some people spend tons and tons of time on their phone playing games. You know, that's what they're spending most of their time doing. So, you know, is that good downtime? Well, I think it gets back to that balance of quantity and quality. What are we talking about? So.
Well, and Rob, you touched on it too. Just, you know, the impact of your time on a screen. Is there any kingdom impact to that? Right. And so that's at least where my mind was going. So like last night I got done with youth group and went home, made sure the kids are to bed and all that kind of stuff. And then I hopped on Xbox and I played games with a couple of our youth, right? And connected with them. Why? Because we were here and they're like, hey, I haven't played with you in a little while. Can we play tonight? I'm like, yeah, we can play tonight, right? So like for me, that's an opportunity to reach out, to connect, to build relationship. That is one of those, like we're saying, one of those opportunities, those times where screen time is one of those really positive, I think, kingdom impact opportunities, moments, just like this, right? People are going to be consuming this podcast.
How dare you?
On a screen. Yeah, right. And now we're telling them not to. No, I'm just kidding. Right?
Just like, listen to it. You know, that's probably...
right, but they're still using an electronic device that they have to look at. And, right? It's
I'm joking.
So there's definitely that area of positive, and from a Christian perspective, a faith perspective, there's definitely a kingdom impact that is inherent in a lot of these things if we choose to put that at the forefront. And I think that's what I'm hearing you say is you have a choice, and is not only how much time you spend, but what you're doing within that time. And so like, am I playing by myself, or am I bringing my kids and spending time with them, playing something they enjoy, and putting the game that I really like to the side and playing with them? You know, that's my younger brother, I think, does a really good job of this too, because I interact with him. He's got 2 kids that are similar ages to ours, and just talking with him about some different things. And I was always struck by how intentional he tries to be in. No, I can't play with you right now. I'm playing with my kids on this thing, right? Like, it's a really cool moment. Like, oh, that's a really cool decision you're making. A choice that you're going to put at the forefront. You're going to make a priority. So yeah.
I think that's probably.
I didn't turn on my peace sign yet.
Oh yeah, get the thing on. There we go. We're good.
Start it over.
Start fresh. Dad joke.
That's right.
Yeah.
Why did I wear 2 pairs now?
Right. Yeah. The idea of choice, I think, is actually pretty big here. So like whether you choose to spend some time like making iMovie music videos or whatever, video games or whatever you're spending your time on, are you in charge of your choice?
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like a lot of these things are set up to kind of just suck you in.
Yeah.
And you're not really
social media apps specifically.
Like you're not making an active choice that I want to be doing this, but I have a reflex to do it.
Yep.
That's where I would encourage people to take back their autonomy almost,
100%, independent
like
identity.
Do you want to be spending this time doing that, or are you just kind of like floating with it? Because when I had Facebook, I felt like I floated. That news feed, you just keep scrolling, like looking for something to grab you. Yeah. And 2 hours later, you've done nothing. You didn't even want to do that. And then you feel like you wasted something. If you're going to play a video game, sit down and play it. Like, do it. Make that choice. And then get up and do something else. If you're going to rest. If you're going to work. But this whole, like, half in, half out, like, kind of just...
An
like,
hour
malaise.
later, you're like, I didn't do anything.
Right, and just cloudy. I don't feel like I rested. I don't feel like I entertained. I don't feel like I just don't feel like I did anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So being purposeful about it.
Yeah, that
That's
was a
probably
lot
a good
easier
word.
way to say it, but
No, it's
intentional.
There you go.
There we go. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a helpful hint there for me that another mentor of mine mentioned to me that I actually try to practice regularly is I just delete social media apps off my phone randomly. Not all of them, because again, a lot of parts of my ministry, people interact with me on those things.
Sure.
But like, if I sense an app that I'm going to, I'm sitting down and I have idle time, and just naturally the phone comes out and this app opens, I delete it. Done.
Oh, okay. Right.
And then it's gone for a month. And then I'll bring it back. Again, for me, it's like, so I have TikTok. I don't make any TikTok videos, but it's a way for me to stay kind of in tune with youth culture in general. And I kid you not, it's probably parents. It's one of the best tools if you want to know where youth culture, like in the U.S., is heading. Music that's popular, things that your kids are definitely hearing at school, seeing at school, dances, all these ideas, cool words, lingo, things like that. TikTok's probably the best place for it. But TikTok is 100% designed to suck you in and waste hours of your time. And so I'll do that. I'll go through this time of, okay, I'm starting to get sucked in, and it's gone. And then I'll bring it back after a little while when that's kind of subsided. And so my wife and I have a dialogue on that, because the last thing I want is for that, like you're saying, a habitual, reaction over and over again. But it can be hard. It's not easy.
Right.
But like you said, that the way you put that floating, I think, really accurately describes.
That's what it feels like.
100%. You feel like you're just.
It's
floating.
kind of a gross feeling.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep. Like you said, it's nothing accomplished in that time.
Yeah, when you look back at it and you think, well, that was a waste.
Yeah.
Then it's not good. It's a good indicator.
So we have a positive current event. So
Right.
how many current events end up being positive? I know it's like, so I
Gotta
actually
look
didn't have to
hard.
search that hard, but usually you do, right?
Normally
I was
do.
thinking about that, felt fortunate that this time around it just popped out. So another study from usnews.com, they found that there's a growing number of 14 to 24-year-olds taking care of their elderly relatives. Whereas typically you would think it'd be like your 40, 50, 60-year-old, like sons and daughters taking care of their parents as they get older.
And that's
What
still
is
the rule. There's still a majority of that dynamic happening.
Right. There's still a lot of that going on. They
the study,
surveyed
they were
over
surprised.
1,000 young people that fall into this age range, 14 to 24, and they found that there's 35% of them that have or are currently caring for one of their older relatives.
Wow.
I know.
You know,
good on them. Like,
yeah.
wow.
There's another stat that's growing, and that's grandparents raising grandchildren.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Going the other way, too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the middle gap doing? Like,
parents, man.
yeah, I know. They're just like the middle, I don't know. They're playing video games. That's what they're...
They're playing
just
video
doing
games.
That, so.
Yeah, there's a huge disparity there between the two. And it's up. Those numbers were 10 times higher than previous estimates in studies before.
So is that our generation that's kind of...
So it used to be 3.5% based on previous studies of 14 to 24-year-olds taking care of elderly relatives.
And now it's up to...
And now it's 35%.
Wow.
That's insane. That's a huge jump.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's...
And my wife's one of those. She's in that statistic. Yeah, her grandma Angie had dementia, and when she was living at home, and she helped her mom, my mother-in-law, take care of her. But yeah, it's like I don't think about a whole ton, but really cool that youth are willing to step up and take on. Your 20-somethings are typically looking to go to college, so that means they're either holding off on that to do this, or they're doing both at the same time. I think you mentioned someone you knew doing that.
Yeah, so I know of a young man that is able to, because he's going to college in the same town that his grandpa's in, and his grandpa's got some issues. Don't need to tell exactly what that is, but he's able to check in on him and be there and help out. And I don't know what level of caregiving he's doing, but he's obviously participating there, and it's really, really good because obviously his granddad trusts him, and his kid's not not a slouch, and he knows is responsible, and so it's. I don't know that he would. I guess I'll have to ask him, but I would think that he probably enjoys that time with his granddad, even though that there's some things that are challenging there, and I think one of the things that it talks about in the article is the need to, surprisingly, there's that many young people that are stepping into that role. How do we help provide some additional help and resources to those individuals?
Well, I think Rob, you touched on it too. It very well could be. Any of this study doesn't speak to it, but simple logic, right? If there's a growing number of grandparents parenting grandkids, it would be logical then that those grandkids are looking to reciprocate the same thing as they're getting older, and their grandparents that once fathered and mothered them, that they're reciprocating those things back. And we know this, that there's a huge breakdown in the home, in the family, in our nation, right? There's a lot of motherless and fatherless homes. There's a lot of homes that have neither. There's a growing number of kids in the foster system and in adoptive systems. It's sad, heartbreaking in a lot of ways. There's also like a glimmer of hope that some of these families that can have kids are now engaging this population of kids and bringing them into a really awesome, healthy home. But not enough either, right? There's so many kids that need a healthy home. Working with youth all the time, I see it a lot of, man, if you just had somebody that every day you woke up and they just said they loved you, your outlook on life would probably be drastically different. But because you wake up and you have a parent that either ignores you or just tells you all the ways you need to do better, you have just this jaded view on how people perceive you and how you perceive others.
And then it gets worse too, as some of those kids are in households where the parents aren't doing the work of loving them. Meaning you can say all you want, but how are you actually providing as a parent for your children? That's some people
to find those places to show that love, because it takes effort, it takes work.
But if you're broken as a parent already and you're dealing with, and I'm sure you Rob, in your practice, you occasionally run into some families, especially marriages, that they're struggling and they're so focused on that, they're having a hard time focusing on the kids very well. So it's it's I would say it's one of the big challenges for our society is how do we bring some healing, some emotional healing to young parents and just parents in general, so that they can do a better job of parenting.
something to definitely be praying for. Always be on the lookout. There's always be surprised. I mean, you guys probably wouldn't, but I think a lot of people would be surprised at how far one kind word to a kid goes. Like, can completely reshape their trajectory in life by one adult, a teacher, somebody that is in their life just going, hey, I see this in you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's something for me that I try to do when I can, when I see something, you know, not fake, when I see something genuine and be like, hey, I see this in you.
Sure.
Because my hope is that would have a positive impact, that, you know, when they're going through something hard, they can lean back like, this person who I trust said this about me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And like we talked last night with the youth, the Bible is absolutely stuffed, like, to the brim with truths of who God, of what God says we are, like who we are in Christ, right? Just his beloved, his children, his adopted children, right? Just perfect in his sight, created a masterpiece. I mean, just over and over and over again. Like, just it's stuffed over and over with who we are in Christ, the identity God has given us. And but so many kids, they either haven't heard it or they've heard it and never seen it. And yeah, there's a huge disparity between these grandkids and these grandparents in this middle area of opportunity, right? That's when I just keep coming back, because I can't make choices for people or for parents, right? I just keep going back. For me, my perspective is opportunity, just a huge opportunity over and over and over again. Because if I don't look at it that way, then I get stuck in the negative, right? I get stuck in the problems, though I don't want to ignore the realities, but also if I just sit and stare at the problem, then nothing changes.
Right.
You know? But cool opportunities, I think.
Yeah, I didn't read that article, but and I didn't mean to make it negative sounding.
No, you're good.
Because
it's a reality of it.
The beautiful piece about it is that is the willingness of these young people to step forward and care, because that's difficult work.
One, it's counter this stereotype, I think, of our young people.
Gen Z.
Self-centered.
Right. So that is impressive, and I do believe that's going to build some character in these kids.
Yeah, totally.
As long as it's not parentification, but which we could talk about later. But again, the thought comes to mind. Okay, so why the increase? You know, what's happening on a sociological level? And I'm not a sociologist. I don't even think I ever took a class on that. But you just always see ripple effects and like stuff happening.
Logic leads you in that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, anyways, that's cool.
Yeah. Cool. So, well, let's get to the meat of our, if we haven't already. Sure. I love it. We've been touching on some really cool thoughts. But, Rob, I haven't talked to you in quite some time. Yeah. I still remember 5 years ago, I think it was, you coming and having lunch with myself and Paul and a few others.
I did. Oh, yeah.
It was a long time ago, man. I know.
Yeah, that was here, right?
Yeah, you came here. Yep. Butch over in Savage.
Oh, no, it was Tim.
Oh, you're right. Kofke.
That's right. Yep.
Tim was at Savage at that point at the Alliance Church. Yep. And then we went to Metal Arc for lunch. And
man, I don't remember that.
Oh yeah. It's all good, man.
Yeah. I do remember the meeting down here, though.
Yeah. And I got to know you some then, but then, you know, I've always appreciated just the way you've carried yourself and who you are, and you're a man of faith, and so that gives me some, you know, common ground with you too in that way. And just where are you at right now? So you finished your master's, like what's your title and things like that? Like where are you at and things? I know you're here in Sydney and in Glendive, and if you wouldn't mind just kind of sharing a little update of who, what, where, all that good stuff.
Well, I'm 35, married, 3 kids. I grew up in Portland and homeschooled for the first 6 years of elementary, and then went to public school. That was quite an awakening.
Yeah, right.
And then I majored in music. I was going to be a music teacher, but then I got sick with Crohn's disease. So I had to do a career change after all that work and money, but turned out to be a door that was closed that really opened an excellent direction. I didn't know how much I would like counseling, and how much it would fit with who I am. I get energy going to work. It is tiring work, but it feels very sustainable. Like I love it. It's interesting.
I would guess that if you didn't draw energy from that kind of work, that
You wouldn't
trying
last
to do
long.
that kind of
Burnout
work,
fast.
yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so I went back to school. Went to Multnomah in Portland and got a master's in counseling. Then we moved out here shortly after, and I started private practice. I got licensed a couple years later. And so my official title is a licensed, what is it? LCPC, Licensed Clinical Professional Counselor. That's what I am.
Right now.
That's kind of where I'm at. I see on average about 25 clients a week.
That'll keep you busy.
Yeah, it's considered full time.
Yeah.
For a counselor, you usually don't do 40 hours. You're gonna burn out too fast. Then you don't have time for paperwork. And then the other thing I do is I'm a worship pastor part time at Glendive Evangelical Church.
Yeah.
In Glendive.
Which I love, by the way, because music's one of my favorite passions. So,
Nice.
yep. Because that's what I do here on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So I'm the associate
Sweet.
pastor of youth and worship was what I was hired for.
Oh,
so,
sweet. What do you play?
Yeah. I mean, mainly acoustic because of the need. I love playing bass. Bass is my first love, and that's what Ben plays as well. Yeah. So just recently, I've been able to start playing more on bass. In fact, I was supposed to play bass this last Sunday, but I got sick, so Ben filled in for me.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
It's good to have two
planned.
basses now.
No COVID, thankfully.
Oh, okay.
No, that was back in November.
Yeah, that's what I had.
Yeah, we had
It's kind of the month.
We got released right before Thanksgiving, thank goodness. So.
Oh, could you taste food?
No.
Oh,
No,
okay.
it was a bummer that way, but
Yeah, it was terrible.
but at least I didn't have to sit in my house.
Yeah, no,
So,
that is nice. Yeah.
But
So speaking of COVID, in your practice, what have you seen? Any major changes over the last, let's say, 12 to 18 months?
More strain on marriages, more relapsing.
Substance abuse mostly.
So I don't have a lot of substance. I usually refer out. I do work with addictions, mostly behavioral addictions, but just the more stress, people typically do worse under it. You know?
yeah,
Sure.
That's
Or change.
Yeah,
and forced change. Yeah.
Sure. But with the oil field going down, I mean, there's a lot of comorbidity, like just ripple effect, bad things happening. I mean, there was a massive influx of new clients wanting counseling. Most counselors around here are booked out a couple months. So I don't know. I guess pandemics are real good for counseling business. That's good job security. Obviously, you don't want to see people suffer.
No.
That's mainly the thing I've seen is just with more stress, more change, like you said. People's problems typically worsen. So.
You've seen some victories through your work in the last year, you think? Addressing some things?
Let's see. I mean, there's always breakthroughs and then crumbling. That's just kind of the nature of the thing. You get a new crisis. Some clients, they come for different reasons. Some want just a place to vent and then they're good. Some people want almost like a life coach walking through life with them.
Yeah.
Sure.
So they'd be once a month, kind of giving an update, but they'll email me when something bad happens and, they'll want a session. And then other people really don't want to be here, but they're working on a specific problem.
Right.
When we're through that problem, they'll move on.
Right.
And may not see them again, or might see them 5 years later.
Sure.
I've seen some of that too. So, how did I get going on that?
COVID.
Gotcha. Yeah. So with Oh, you had a really good question on that. I can't remember. It's COVID. COVID.
Well, I would just ask it. Have you seen any victories over that?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Over,
so
or smooth progress or whatever you want to say it. So
yeah, it just seems like there's continuously victories, and it's kind of like the wheat and the tares. Like the wheat grows alongside the tares.
yeah.
And that's people too in their personal lives. And there's some people where it was just like massive amounts of wheat, and we cut it off and harvest, and it was great, and we're done counseling. And
Yeah, that's good.
That's way cool.
It's really satisfying to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But in a strange way, it's also, and I hope this doesn't sound weird, it's also satisfying to get people coming in with interesting problems, you know, and they've been stuck and they want to be unstuck, and it just feels like a brand new puzzle. Haven't seen this before.
Yeah.
It's stimulating.
And energizes you.
Yeah, really cool.
Do you find yourself a problem solver at heart? Like that's a very natural thing for you to, like, if you come across a Sudoku puzzle.
Well,
kind of a thing,
I did go through a Sudoku phase.
Yeah.
I do enjoy chess. I enjoy strategy games,
Yeah.
Risk, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I guess so. You know, kind of with counseling, there are some things that kind of repeat. You see things often.
A pattern.
Yeah, there's patterns, and then there's like pattern treatment for it as well. So sometimes it's not reinventing the wheel, but occasionally there will be interesting dilemmas that you almost have to like tinker with the treatment almost, you know. And that's just like really fun.
You feel like Dr. House a little bit?
Not that
you walk
smart.
around with a cane,
and all moody
randomly.
and stuff. Yeah, not quite that cool.
You
but
come home with your wife. You're like, I've got a really interesting one.
Yeah,
you pull out the cane.
Right.
That's my thinking stick.
Yeah, not quite like that, but yeah. No, but it is. I mean, if you didn't enjoy it, yeah, like you said, I think you would burn out. So there's got to be like some kind of intrinsic rewards, and I think the challenge is a reward for me. But
Sure.
Well, yeah, and I had an interesting question too. So how do you, like, what boundaries do you put up to help you not bring those things home, right? So you got a wife, you got kids, you got this really important family unit, a home that you need to be a dad and a father to, not a counselor to. Obviously, I'm sure there's some run over where you can use some of these awesome gifts and talents that you have and knowledge to to really help your family grow through hard things, or help your kids or your wife through hard things. But like, I'm sure you've thought of that. What kind of boundaries or things have you set up so that work stays work and home stays home?
Yeah. And that, actually, I get that question quite a bit from clients.
Do you really?
Yeah. I think part of it is just practice. So there's not like a single thought that helps you do it. I remember actually in my internships, like getting done with a session and just sitting there in shock and like starting to cry, like just like heavy intense stuff. Yeah, way intense. I mean, this guy had 2 forms of cancer. His wife died of brain cancer. His current wife, like, cheating on him. Like, it's just like, oh my goodness. What
heavy.
a Job story, you know?
Yeah.
And then like, how do I help him, you know? But over time, like you kind of get used to like the weightlifting, I guess, aspect of it. Like, I guess one of the tools, like cognitive tools that I use, is that I remind myself that humans are actually very resilient. And I know that can be kind of misused at times, like, they're resilient, like dismissive.
Right.
It's not supposed to be a dismissive concept, but it's more realistic in the sense that people can push through unbelievable amounts of stress and hardship, and make it out the other side. Not that it makes it all sweet and pretty. It's still really hard and difficult, but it's kind of like when you go to the doctor. Have you guys ever had like a procedure, surgery, or anything like that? Like,
wisdom teeth.
Oh, okay, sure. So I had my large intestine taken out.
Ouch.
And like, yeah, after the surgery, I was like really sore and didn't want to move. But all the nurses were like telling me, get up, you know, all right, come on, sit up. now let's walk around the hospital. It was like so difficult. I was like,
why are you asking me to do this?
Yeah, like stop it. Like, what's wrong with you people? Like, this hurts,
Right.
But the nurses almost seemed a little bit callous. Like, it almost seemed like they didn't care about my, physical pain.
Yeah.
But I think it's because they've seen so much pain and they've seen people, really, they're okay.
Yeah.
They're going to be okay. There are clients, though, that I'll get where I can tell they're not going to be okay. And that's when, I put more into it, make sure they're safe and things like that.
Right.
But for the most part, one way to not bring it home is to remind myself they are okay. Yeah. It's hard. And I'm trying to help the best I can. Yeah. I don't want to overextend myself because then I'm not as helpful then.
Right.
I don't want to basically rob them of like the cocoon effect or the hatching from the egg effect, where you grow the muscles and strengths from the adversity. They need that.
Trial is where we grow.
Right, right, and they need that muscle growth, whether it's spiritual or emotional, mental, whatever.
Yeah.
They need that from this experience. I don't want to rob that by overly helping them. Just like the nurses needed me to stand up and walk rather than them just pushing me in the wheelchair all around. So, and then as far as like shutting off the empathy, like I do pray for my clients. And so, I think that helps. And then
like bring you some closure on a more daily basis of it's in, God's in control, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think just having a real clear, understanding of what my role is and how much I can actually do.
Yeah.
If I'm confused about that, if I'm overextending myself, trying to be more of a hero or a savior to them than I'm even capable of, I'm going to run myself out. Run out of energy, but keeping in mind, like, God doesn't do it for us either. Like, he doesn't push us in the wheelchair. He knows what we're made of. He'll allow us to go through some really difficult things. Totally. I don't. Again, it might sound really callous, but we are able to shoulder quite a bit, and in a lot of cases, it's good for us.
Well, and I like asking you that question, right? Because I wrestle with that at different times too. And Ben's heard me say this a lot. Something that's helped me through it is I'm not responsible for people. I'm responsible to people, right? So, like, I'm responsible to Ben in being his pastor and him being an elder here at the church and him being, right? So I oversee the worship ministry. Well, he's a part of our worship ministry. So I'm responsible to him in that role for that thing. He's going to be helping out with the youth ministry as a youth leader. I'm responsible to him. But if he goes and makes a bad choice, like, I am not responsible for that choice. And that he's heard me say that numerous times. And I have to be reminded of that too, because it'll be hard. Someone makes a really bad choice and it can rob you of a portion of your day or a whole day. Because you're just like, why are you making that choice? Please stop making that choice. Like, there's something so much better for you. And you have to, like, I have to be reminded of that too. I say it to my youth leaders all the time, working with teens all the time. They make a lot of bad choices. And it can be really easy to get caught up in like a almost narcissistic way. Like, I could have changed that when I can't. Like, there's no way I can change this kid's choice. That person was going to make that choice.
If God himself doesn't step in to take over his choices, what chance do you have?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So, like, being reminded of that, I'm responsible to this person. Have I shared truth? God's truth? Yes. Have I shown them love and care? Yes. Have I made myself available to them? Yes. Have I interjected at intentional, crucial moments where I should? Yes. Do I need to helicopter? No. Should I? No. That's a horrible way of going about it, and I'm not responsible for them. I've had other youth ask me that question too. Like, Jazz asked me that. She was a long time. Went through all the way through our youth group, and then actually I got to do her wedding, and now they're youth leaders. Zach and Jazz are youth leaders here at the church, and she asked me that question a little differently. She goes, "How do you not get sick of us?" And you come home, and because she lived with us for like 6 months or something like that, and she goes, you come home from youth group, and like, I know what these kids said and what they did, and she's like, I'm wrecked. Like, I don't, and you come home and you're like totally fine. And I'm like, are you saying like you think I don't care? No, I know you care, but how do you switch it off, right? So I'm always interested, especially for you, where okay, not every minute of my day is dealing with people's problems. A lot of my day ends up that way, but like you are literally, that is your role, is for people to come and unload and for you to sift. I'm probably paraphrasing, I don't mean to speak for you, but that's my perception anyways, of sift through and try to help them through that mess. I'm always interested in how someone navigates that and still has a healthy home life where it's not overtaken by the good thing, the passion, the gifts, the talents God's given you, you know, and run amok. That'd be obviously a terrible thing. But
so here's another question I'd like to. I would imagine I've never been under the care of a good licensed professional like you, but how much of your time is spent simply doing one of these two sides of a coin, either showing somebody where their blind spot is and bringing awareness to their blind spot, and or correcting incorrect thinking that they've got about themselves?
well, that's a good question.
Okay, so make sure I got this question right. The two sides of the coin are...
They don't see anything. They just are blind to
And
it.
you're pointing
Or
it out.
they're believing something that's untrue about themselves.
Sure. Usually those are overlapped, like can be one and the same. Yeah, but I mean, to kind of elaborate on that, one of the challenges is balancing maintaining rapport with your client while also nudging them towards truth, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, you don't want to make them mad, but at the same time, anytime someone points out something that isn't great.
I have made clients mad.
Yeah.
But it was either an accident, like that came out wrong, or you didn't understand what I was trying to say. But the more rapport you have with them, the more correcting power you have too. And in that sense, it's a little different than being a pastor, because as a pastor, you have to be very careful not to condone sin and therefore like disgrace holiness.
Yeah.
Whereas in a counselor role, you actually roll with the issues a little bit more. So you don't try to scrub them clean right away. You're looking basically like to triage them. Where are they bleeding the most? Let's stop that. And then let's go on to the next thing after that. But in the meantime, you're constantly like assessing and kind of nurturing the therapeutic relationship that you have with them. When you have that in place, it's actually not that hard to correct them or challenge them. It just there's a softer startup for it. Whereas I feel like overall our culture doesn't really know how to confront, and when we do, it's kind of nasty. Usually fueled by anger or bitterness that's been
pent up.
Right.
Or judgmentalism.
Sure. Yeah, like prejudging, like they didn't
assuming a lot.
Right. So I mean, there are a few simple ways of like phrasing a challenge that's actually more honoring to them, and less assuming. That I think is actually a lot of times when I correct clients, they appreciate it and it feels very genuine, and it's almost like they don't even know they were being challenged on something. But I think it's because the fangs were taken out of it, the venom was taken out. Like they know I'm not putting venom into it. I have no dog in the fight. Why would I attack them?
Right. You were literally there.
Do all
you can.
I'm here to serve you and influence, and maybe there's this area that I don't know for sure, but I'm gonna throw this out there and just see what you think. Right. And like that, sometimes that's just how I phrase it.
Sure.
It's just a real gentle. And then a lot of times, if you're doing your job right as a counselor, they'll come up with them themselves. Like they'll see it, and studies show that when they have their own self epiphanies, they tend to do more. They tend to last longer, like create lasting change.
Like they took ownership of it.
Yeah, it was like my own discovery. It was like this amazing light bulb moment. And now like I'm motivated.
Yeah.
Versus if I just told them in the first session, here's what's wrong with you.
Which is what we'd all want. We'd all want to come up with our own solution, ideally.
Sure. So in some ways, I almost feel like, again, I don't want to like blanket statement like pastors and how they counsel, but there's this nervousness I think that I've come across with pastors, almost like an impatience, like I need to like point this out now.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, the Holy Spirit, like how long has he been like poking at certain 100%. Things in your life? Like he's been waiting years.
Like we know better.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, the Lord is actually very patient.
Yeah.
And so I think extending that as well is needed. People are very messy, and
guaranteed.
And it takes a long time to change sometimes.
Yeah, that's something I have to remind myself of too. In almost like a, not necessarily comical, but in a more positive light. Like, I would not exist if people were perfect, and in fact, a lot of things wouldn't exist if people were perfect. People aren't perfect. I'm not perfect, and that's okay. Why am I surprised when someone makes a bad choice? We're surrounded by bad choices every day, right? Like another quote from Paul David Tripp talking about parents. He goes, "Parents, why are you surprised when you need to parent? That's literally your name." Right? But how often do parents get exasperated that I told you already 5 times not to touch the light bulb, and there you went, you touched the light bulb. Now the lamp fell over and it's broken, right? And that quote would come through my head again, like of, why am I surprised? Parents, why are you surprised? People, why are you surprised when other people make bad choices? Duh.
That's funny. That's
Go
a good
ahead
quote.
and rewind your own life just the last 24 hours. Did you make bad choices? Yeah, I made bad choices. Now, obviously, we know there's worse consequences for certain choices, which we would then deem worse choices, right? Obviously, God sees sin as sin, right? There's no level of sin. However, we do know there's inherent consequences to that sin. And certain sins, equal worse consequences, deeper, harder, more painful consequences. But yeah, it's like, okay, parent, why am I surprised when I need to parent? I literally carry the title parent. It is my function. I should rejoice, honestly, because I made this choice. I made this choice to have kids and be a parent. I should rejoice in the opportunity to fulfill the calling on my life to parent, right? But how often, honestly, as a parent do we take a step back and be like, what an amazing opportunity. I get to go parent. My kid just smacked my other kid in the face. Let's do it,
Yeah.
But honestly, that, for me, I try to challenge myself and challenge my wife, like, smile. Like, relax, it's okay, smile, and let's enter this conflict with the positive attitude that we've got an opportunity. You have an opportunity to show Christ in every conflict. And speaking parenthood specifically, running with that same illustration, right? When your kids get in a fight or they do something, you have an opportunity to show Christ, or you have an opportunity to show humanity and the depravity of humanity. Which one do you want to put on display?
Sure.
I'm like, as a parent, well, that's convicting. I would much rather put on display Christ and let him do his thing than put on my human depravity on display and just be like, we're terrible people. Here you go, kids. It's like, no, I want them to see God in as much as I can. But yeah, that thought rolls through my head. People are always going to make bad choices. Paul will say, hurt people. Again, that person said something mean. Well, they probably got yelled at, or they probably don't have a great home life. Yeah, but that's no excuse, right? That's what I hear. It's like, you're right. It's no excuse, but it is a reason, and the reason should matter.
Sure. Right?
If Ben says something mean to me, I should at least respect and love him enough to give him some benefit of the doubt of there's probably a reason, because that's not usually Ben, rather than just flipping a switch and be like, "There's no excuse for treating me that way."
Mm-hmm.
Let's throw down. Let's go
like,
right now.
And as I point at you, you immediately get defensive, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a good segue, honestly, because this is always a mind that's rattled through my head, is faith and your profession. Where do you see those intersect? As a Christ follower, as a born-again Christian who declares Jesus as your Savior, your Lord, your King, active in the church, and preaching love, loving God, loving others, caring for one another, things like that. Where do you see that intersect with your counseling?
Yeah, good question. There are two populations that I really enjoy working with, and that is Christians that are struggling with like theological issues, like distorted thoughts about themselves, shame, that kind of stuff. Maybe even encountered some like spiritual abuse, bad experiences at church, that kind of stuff. I love working with them. Then the other group is non-Christians.
Yeah.
I really enjoy
So you
working
mean
with
everyone?
them. Everyone.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so non-Christians, and that's part of my, that's a big part of why I'm not labeled as a Christian counselor.
Yeah, right.
Because people may not know what that means.
Yeah.
It may mean to them that I didn't go to school.
Well, this would shock you maybe, but I'm glad that you're not listed that way.
Sure.
Because then I can really refer anyone to you.
Sure, right.
Like if you were strictly a Christian counselor, different people I come in contact with that I would want to refer to you, they wouldn't go.
Right.
Or I wouldn't be able to,
Sure.
So, sorry, a little aside there.
No, yeah.
I love that, honestly.
Yeah, and there are exclusively Christian counselors, and they get non-Christians as well, and they're doing great. It really just depends on what your calling is.
Yeah.
So I'm not dogging on Christian counselors out there.
No,
don't worry.
there's a place for it, 100%.
Right. But I really enjoy the aspect of getting unchurched, atheists, whatever. Really, really interesting people that come through my door. And so what happens then is I get a chance to sow seeds of the gospel without necessarily even proclaiming it as the gospel.
Yeah.
But what they're experiencing is, an unconditional love from me.
Yeah.
Support, thoughtfulness, like really considering their story and caring.
Yeah.
And
Not
then
placing judgment.
right.
Willing to hear them out.
And I've encountered a lot of people that are very resistant to the church and to Christ.
Yeah.
I just don't think they've experienced Christ.
Yeah.
I think they've experienced like Christ-flavored things, or like things done in the name of Christ,
Or character.
right? And so this is an opportunity to give them exposure to Christianity, to Jesus, in a very non-judgmental environment.
Yeah.
And then at the end, basically all my clients know that I'm a Christian and that I'm a pastor, but they don't feel judged by me because that's not the hat that I'm wearing there. I'm not their pastor. They're not believers where I have to call them out, point out in Scripture where they're off. I would say actually at church, I'm meaner. I don't know how else to say it, but that's with my own brothers and sisters.
Well, the expectation is supposed to be higher.
Yeah, right.
It truly is.
And I actually believe, based on Scripture, that we are to be sharpening each other more. There's a little more rod, like whacking each other a little bit. Again, with grace and love. But but anyways, I just really enjoy getting this exposure to so many different people and getting the seeds of the gospel out there.
Yeah.
I haven't had any conversions in counseling, but there are some people that I feel like pretty convinced that they're gonna get there at some point.
Grew a strong sensitivity to
like someone's gonna water,
God speaking.
God causes the growth. Someone's gonna harvest, but it just feels like step one for a lot of these people.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited about that. I feel again energized by that.
Well, and one of the things that I'm sure you employ is the fact that there's the awesome thing about biblical truth is you don't have to talk in a biblical way to convey truth, right? Truth is truth. And so I think, you and I get caught up in the context of church talking a lot of Christianese that would not fly in your practice if you were sitting there. And obviously you've experienced that in your church as well. But I'm sure that it's just a simple way of saying, you got the whole book of Proverbs. And so much of that is just straight up good, wise thinking. Yeah. Right? And you don't have to quote scripture. You can just say, hey, I think it'd be really wise if you step back from this particular relationship because I think this person is toxic to you. Well, that's straight out of scripture. Right. But you don't have to. I mean, that's the beauty of embodying God's truth in your mind and how you think and just conveying that. So
sure.
It's really, really good.
Yeah. I appreciate you answering that. It always fascinates me. I love hearing, because I truly believe, Romans 12 talks about offering your bodies as a living sacrifice, right? Offering everything that you do as an act of worship to God, right? And so whether you're a rancher, a farmer, an oil worker, a counselor, a pastor, like there's no profession that has a monopoly on serving God. Do you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people look at a pastor and be like, "Oh, you're serving God." I'm like, are you a grocer at a grocery store? Yeah. Serve God. Well, how can I do that? It came up last night. Jazz, I love Jazz's. One of the questions the youth had is how can I strengthen my faith? And it's like worshiping God by what He's gifted you with. And so she was talking to one girl and like, you paint nails really good. Worship God with painting nails. Yeah. She's like, there's a lot of these probably elderly ladies that their hand shakes too much, they can't paint their nails. Go and paint their nails and make their day. And in that, your motivation, make it to worship God, to use what He's given you and to go love on the people He's created, right? I'm like, what an amazing picture. And so that's why I always love asking that question of, in what you do, how do you see God interwoven in that and your faith and serving Him? So I really appreciate that. I think it's a beautiful thing that we miss so easily. And so we go worship pastor, right? Come and sing. That's worship. It's like, no, man, that's like such a sliver of the pie. Or I'm sitting in my car and I'm listening to a Christian radio station. Now I'm worshiping. It's like, that's not biblical at all. If that's the only time you worship, like there's a lot at your disposal to worship God with beyond music, right? And so it's a great medium. I love music to death, and doing it in a group is even better. But yeah, so it's good. How do you worship God in all that you do? So
here's another question. Do you have any let's just say disciplines or techniques that you suggest to your clients that they do as a part of their either daily or weekly routine that is beneficial to their mental health?
That would actually be beneficial to a majority of people, like you said.
Anybody.
There's a rhythm to, you see this pattern, and so there's some diagnosis to that pattern, then also solutions to that pattern.
Yeah,
Is that kind of what you're going after?
Yeah, I think one of the things that was talked about last night is, it was brought up as an example is spiritual disciplines. We want to be engaging in scripture and prayer and those kind of things. And the example is that, we all know that we probably should be physically active and exercising at least sometime during the week.
Right.
As a part of a discipline of taking care of our bodies is to exercise and
eat right?
It's a good thing, right? We're supposed
Body's
to be
a temple.
Right, exactly. In the same way, we need to be taking care of our minds and how we think as well. So that's the angle I was going at, is that do you have anything that you suggest to your clients to say, hey, I really need you guys to start doing this as a part of your routine, whether that's weekly or daily, that's beneficial for you and what you deal with?
Yeah. So typically therapists that do homework or give homework are the cognitive behavioral therapists. And I do some of that.
Okay.
The majority of therapy that I do is called psychodynamic, as well as motivational interviewing.
Sure.
What's the definition of psychodynamic?
Psychodynamic stems from psychoanalysis, which a lot of Christians typically have a problem with because that's Freud.
Okay.
But this is like the great-great-grandchild of his of his stuff.
A deep descendant.
So a lot of the weird things have been kind of, pruned out. But essentially the idea behind psychodynamic is that what causes change for people is insight. And so through conversation, through talking deeply through things, they come to these like realizations or conclusions that almost like have this like cathartic therapeutic effect, where then now they change from that experience.
That awareness.
Yeah. So it just opens up more awareness of like, oh, I get it now. And then it kind of takes either the depression out of it or the anxiety out, and then they're just like loosened up more, you know. So that's typically what I shoot for. There's a couple other therapy models, like EMDR is really good for trauma, and then motivational interviewing is like it's kind of like client-centered or Rogerian, Carl Rogers, that kind of thing. Only it's like a CBT, cognitive behavioral, combined with Rogers. It's a good therapy model. But anyways, I don't tend to give very much homework. Sometimes I'll get like type A personalities that want homework. Yeah, what should I be working on? What
Give
book
me
should I
something
read?
to do.
I was like, I don't know. There's a
To be honest,
go
that would be
Google a
similar
book.
to me.
What's that?
I'd want a task.
Oh, would you?
Yeah.
Or the cheapskate that doesn't want to visit you that much, and so they want to save some money.
Is there a
So,
book that
like,
just
can I
I could
just do
read
this
what
at
you're about to
home?
say?
Penny pincher. Yeah.
So yeah, again, it's like if I'm the masseuse, and they're asking like, how should I massage myself this week? On my shoulder. I was like, you almost can't, but you can. Like, there's things you can do that would be good for your shoulders and things like that. But however, I do have things that I tend to repeat over and over. I'd say three things. The first thing is something we call mindfulness, which another word for it is like meditation. Now, that's also a big buzzword for Christians because we tend to think
a bunch of extra information
attached
attached to it.
Yeah, and Eastern mysticism employs meditation a lot.
Right.
And you have a bunch of people in Hollywood doing some kind of weird faux version of Buddhism or Hinduism or whatever. Meditation is actually a very biblical concept. It's a practice that I believe all religions have employed because it's so useful. So what I mean by mindfulness is like going back to that concept of floating, like where you're just kind of not really doing anything, but you're just kind of like bouncing from craving to craving. Like that is the opposite of mindfulness.
Right.
Mindfulness is being intentional and purposeful, but practicing it means that you're actually clearing out distractions, and you're bringing, as if your brain was a camera, you're zooming in the camera on the one thing that you want to focus on. The problem we have with Eastern mysticism and all those kind of things is that they're zooming in on idols or themselves or something else that's not worth zooming in on or not going to be beneficial to them. So when we zoom in on a biblical concept or on God himself or his nature or something that we like an untruth that we've been believing or something, when we zoom in on those kind of things, there's a more attention to detail, there's more insight that can happen. Again, that's the psychodynamic piece, is that I'm looking for them to find insight. And that comes through deep meditation and focused thinking.
Yeah.
Because we have so many distractions, there's so many noises, there's so many highs that we can chase, so many things competing for our attention, meditation and mindfulness is basically non-existent. In fact, when I start helping people or teaching them how to do it, they're always weirded out at first, like this is stupid. But then it always seems, well, not always, but oftentimes you'll a client will be like, oh my word, like, whoa, what just happened? Like they've never done it before.
Right.
And so in some ways it's like a red pill, blue pill. Like they like, wow, I didn't know. And so I would actually encourage all my clients to start doing more mindfulness. Whether it's just focusing in on your breathing or like just the concept that every breath I take, there's oxygen molecules going in my lungs, and then it converts somehow into my bloodstream, and it takes it to all the cells in my body. And then my cells like throw up carbon dioxide, goes back to my lungs, and I breathe it out.
Yeah. Right.
Like if you actually stop to think about each breath, like that's zooming in.
And
real
it helps
close.
you calm down. It helps.
It does.
Take the focus off stress and things like that. Yeah.
Right. So it is a slowing down type thing. And there are benefits to mindfulness. Like there's mindfulness eating, where you do that with, like, you pick up the orange, you look at it, you think about the feel of it. I mean, this sounds kind of silly.
The smell of it.
The smell, and you touch it to your tongue. What is the texture like? And then you put it
Experience your food.
Yeah, right. But you eat so much slower.
Right.
And it's actually more satisfying.
Yeah.
And so then you actually eat less. And it's actually, that's way better diet plan than like counting carbs, in my opinion. You know,
which ends up becoming more stressful because now you're focused on this
horribly
number.
Stressful.
I can't do it. I can't.
I get this little tiny square of food.
Yeah,
like
right.
this nightmare.
Yeah.
Anyways, all that said, I don't do mindfulness eating anytime. I scarf it down. But
You're
it's a
saying
nice
you
idea.
get a big T-bone steak in front of you and you're just like
Let's go.
one sliver and that's it. I'm done because you took 10 minutes analyzing
Just to
the
savor
slice.
the fat on the edge.
That's right.
So that's one thing.
That's really good.
Let's see.
Also, really quick before you move on, I'm glad that you brought that up because you're right. Meditation is kind of a buzzword. Like I said, it has a lot of this other stuff attached to it. When the Bible speaks on meditating on God's word, right? That idea of where you're pushing out all these other things that are distracting you, and you're, like you said, zooming in and going, this is the most important thing right now. Yeah. And just really letting it penetrate your soul. That's what's going through my head, is allowing that food, that smell to penetrate your being. Like let it consume for a moment of just, right? So meditating on God's word, letting it consume your mind, consume your feelings, consume your senses. Like, this is God. I think it's, I like how you describe that.
Oh, thanks.
Incredibly powerful. So
the other thing about that too is that meditation, I agree that there's culturally in certain parts of the Christian walk where that's an immediate knee-jerk reaction. Oh, that's bad. But you got to understand that the enemy, let's just say, is very good at taking things that are very powerful in the kingdom and in a Christian's life and twisting it for his own use and repurposing it for a counterfeit version in other venues. And so anytime you see something that's obviously, you can see where the enemy's working and using stuff. Usually, if you think about it, it's a counterfeit version of something that's pure and true and good and honest that we need to be engaged in. And sometimes it's just easier to be knee-jerk reaction and reject that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, I think there's, I certainly could practice mindfulness a heck of a lot more than I do.
Sure.
Yeah.
And me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other two, I'm
Oh, sure.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Oh
now.
boy. If I can remember them. Let's see.
Well, so one of the things I was going to ask you in relation to that, and maybe this will tie into something to jog your memory, but gratefulness and thankfulness, how much does that impact a person's general, state of mind and how they're viewing life and their overall
answer for that.
attitude?
Yes, it does a lot. I have a little sticky note. No joke, I have a little sticky note. Paul brings it up in his sermon somehow.
Yeah.
Random times he pulls it in. But what if we only had tomorrow what we were thankful for today?
Oh, wow.
So, like, I only get to carry with me tomorrow what I was thankful for today. Like so I just read that somewhere. I'm like, that's really good. So I put it on a sticky note. I put it up. It's in my office right now. And that was probably 5 years ago. It was back when my office was right here, actually. And I had it up on the wall, and he walked in and he saw it. He was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I've heard him repeat it several different times. And just when he was talking, it jogged my memory. Like, I see that sometimes while I sit in my office. I'm like, man, I haven't really been thankful recently. And I should, because I think it does. I think it completely changes your perspective from this victim syndrome to others focused rather than me focused. But Sorry.
Which
asked you that question.
No, that's all right. That's really good. And being others focused is one of the treatments that Alfred Adler came up with. He called it Gemeinschaftsgefühl.
Oh yeah,
it's a German
good old
word.
German.
You guys, yeah.
Sprechen
German,
wenig Deutsch. Yeah.
Oh no, I don't know. Nein,
nicht.
Wo
Nicht
sich,
eine gute.
wo
Yeah.
sich, but basically he called it social interest, and I actually really find Adler interesting because he believed what was wrong with people was inferiority, like a deep feeling that you're not
There's
worthy.
something wrong.
Yeah, which I really feel like stems from Genesis 3. Just that shame, so we hide.
Yeah.
And it just kind of got passed on. I don't think that's only our problems, but that's certainly a problem.
At the root, yeah.
And his treatment, what he believed helped people change or get out of that, was actually getting involved in philanthropy or getting involved in the community,
Right.
as it gets you off of yourself and more focused on others. I was gonna say, boy, I must be tired. Like my thoughts are coming up.
Yeah.
But exercise is actually a very good
Right.
thing for depression.
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
depression like makes you lethargic and tired, and so you don't feel like exercise. But it is one of the best treatments for pulling yourself out of it.
It's like almost a lie. Like your body's telling you that exercise is going to make you more tired. So I already feel tired. So why would I exercise? Then I'm going to feel worse. When the reality is exercise actually invigorates you, brings energy into your life.
Sure.
Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, right. I mean, it has a chemical change inside of you.
So I don't know how much this is, I guess, clinically accurate, but I heard a pastor, and it was catchy, and I like it, is he said, emotion, especially for us up in eastern Montana, where, we don't necessarily
What's
aware
emotion?
our emotions, honestly.
Eastern
if you ever
Montana, love
come
it.
to an evangelical church, you know what I mean? Anyways, a lot of times, what he said is that we have to move to engage in emotion. If you're not moving, you shouldn't expect it. We shouldn't be waiting for us to feel like something before we do something. You need to do something to engage your emotion.
Okay.
So I thought it was interesting. I don't know if that ties in at all, but
Yeah, Neil Anderson has a quote. It's we don't feel our way into the right actions. We act our way into the right feelings.
feeling. Right.
Wow. That's really good.
that's
So
killer,
motion or movement
That's
comes first.
really good.
The feelings come later.
That speaks directly to it.
Yep.
We act our way. Say that. Act our way into the right feelings.
Yeah, we don't feel our way into the right actions.
Yeah.
Which, if you're depressed, you're feeling like not exercising.
Right. Exactly.
We act our way into the right feelings.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good.
That is deep.
Spencer, you better make sure that one gets in a clip for
Slow
for
it
the
down
future.
too. Make it slow motion.
That's right.
And if you could get it while I'm flexing,
Oh, there you go.
uh,
Yes.
that'd be really cool. And if
Oh,
you
by
could-
the way, our producer is here. If you give a hand to the camera there,
Yeah.
Spencer. Yeah, thank you for doing that.
if you could take down the shine from
Yeah.
my head, that'd be great too. Put a little hair up there.
Adjust the color spectrum.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think it's Psalm 72, where the psalmist is complaining about how the wicked are thriving. They're just killing it. Why are they so wealthy?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like they get caught for anything. They prey on the innocent,
Yep.
and nobody seems to notice. But then there's this transition in the psalm, but when I went into your sanctuary, essentially he's reminded, and through his prayer his perception of reality changes,
Right.
and he realizes that in the end the wicked are like chaff, and
Yep.
they blow away. They have just a moment in time where this exists, and then justice basically always comes
Prevails.
through, right?
Yeah.
But it was when he was in the sanctuary, meditating, focused in, that this realization came through the prayer.
Inside.
And then essentially a sense of gratitude came over, that there is justice. And so gratitude is a perception change. And without it, you can be stuck in an anxious or depressed or angry perception for a long time. And so to answer your question about gratitude, I think it's crucial. And honestly, I haven't been tracking much with like modern, psychology updates and stuff.
Sure.
Probably shouldn't admit that on air. But
too busy working.
Yeah, too busy.
Changing lives.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I do seem to remember that there's been more talk about how effective gratitude is for mental health. The other thing I would say is that for a while there wasn't much interest in forgiveness among the psychological community, but that also has shown up as something that's actually very effective and not something like this person that raped you deserves your forgiveness. That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is for the client,
Right.
for you to be free from the resentment and bitterness, because
Right.
basically that event or whatever the thing
100%.
you need to forgive is still living. It's still being fed and nurtured. So we're trying to move past it, move on.
Yeah.
So gratitude, forgiveness. However, forgiveness is a very tricky one to counsel someone through. You can't shoehorn it in. You can't push it too hard. And sometimes it almost sounds like you're letting the abuser go free. So it is definitely something that...
Let them off the hook.
Right. It's something that the client has to like step forward towards it. Rather than you shove them into it. But let's see. What were my other things? So shame. Shame's a real difficult one to deal with. One of the most frustrating things I think that I work with is helping people through shame. Very frustrating. Just it's irrational. Especially when you have typically victims of like sexual abuse and stuff like that have tons of shame. And it just doesn't make any sense.
Not simply that it happened to them, so they don't want people to know, but like they take responsibility.
Yeah, they feel like it was their fault.
Right?
And the explanation behind that is that the brain has a really hard time making sense of abuse and trauma, and it needs to make sense. So what it does is actually fills in the gaps. And either you're going to blame other people or you're going to blame yourself. Well, nice people tend to blame themselves. And that the brain is somewhat satisfied with that answer because it needs to have an answer.
It's interesting how you put that.
But it's not true. And so then
the equal sign can't just be left void.
Right.
Something has to exist on the other side.
That's more distressing to have an empty explanation.
Wow.
And so they fill in the gaps with, it must be my fault. It must be because I'm garbage or a cockroach or something.
That's crazy. So it's almost like the choice is leaving it blank, and you're saying that's more painful than putting yourself through more trauma of self-shame and self-ridicule and all these other things.
Right. The relief that comes from shame is that there's some kind of control or explanation. Like I can make sense of this world again, So getting them to basically let go of the crutch of shame and then cling to something else is quite a process. I don't know how effective like the I am statements are, but sometimes I'll have someone remind them of who they are in Christ. If they're not Christian, I'll have them make
do
up
some
their
kind
own, something that's still true.
Positive.
Self-affirmation type stuff, right?
But
accountability, I'm sure, helps in that too. Like if someone in their life can help affirm like what they're saying in your sessions. Do you ever have interaction with that? Like I look at like addictions in general and just the power of accountability where there's somebody or a group of people walking alongside that person, helping keep them on the right track of like, does that ever...
I mean, definitely in
the
recovery world of drugs and alcohol, it's very community focused. It's like they all take on the addiction as a team by committee. And so that's really helpful. There was a study done. It's been a long time since I looked at it, but it was in grad school. And they basically researched what makes people change. And I think, how did that break down? Like 15 to 20% of cases where people changed, it was based on just did they have a good support network. That's it. Were there people that loved them, that were pulling for them, that were there to help, provide them with resources, encouragement, that kind of thing. That's big for changing people.
Yeah.
Another 20% was basically the connection that they had with their counselor. Did they feel like the counselor cared about them? It wasn't even whether the counselor was any good. Like, was it a good connection?
Right.
Yeah.
Which usually means they're a good counselor if they can establish a good connection. But another piece was, I'm drawing a blank. Let's see, community support. I can't remember the next one, but you could probably Google it. But the last one I think is most interesting. I think it was just a hair smaller, like 15%. Was hope. Like, if they feel some kind of hope, then
like, I can get there.
What an
I think I
amazing
can do this.
biblical thing.
Right.
Like, that's at the crux of faith in
Mm-hmm.
Christ, is the hope that we have in Christ. Wow, that's
really
cool.
And I mean, so that's it's strange that's an actual thing that shifts can shift so much.
Yeah.
But wherever they get that hope from, obviously we have a renewable resource in Christ. There are other sources for hope, short-term hope and stuff like that. But
So we talked about things that we can be doing both for ourselves and helping remind people around us. Mindfulness is a big one. Zeroing in, zooming in on things. Gratitude and thankfulness. What were a couple of the other ones?
Getting moving, like
getting
taking action.
Exercise, thank you. Exercise.
But even just taking action to get yourself to feel.
What was the quote?
Neil Anderson.
Yeah.
If you guys want really amazing pastoral counseling books, Neil Anderson is just incredible.
Top shelf.
Yeah, top shelf. Yeah. He's like a Baptist-costal, so he's like a Baptist with a charismatic hybrid.
Yeah.
And so he's got all these demon stories in his books where he's counseling and like casting demons out.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy, but unbelievable work he's done, and his books are so interesting. But he's got quotes left and right that are just killer, But keep going with your summary though.
No, I was asking you
for more.
Yeah,
what else have I
there's
said?
a couple more things there, I feel like, but
Well, we talked about accountability.
Accountability,
I think
and hope
with the right person, right? I think can be good. We got to be a little careful not to open ourselves up to additional abuse.
Well,
right?
and that's
Obviously
always the question. Anyone that's concerned, empathetic, compassionate, looks at our society, our community right now, just like you said, the oil slowing way down, the COVID virus running through. There's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of wreckage behind what, like, I've been asked that by other people. What can I do? Right? And so I appreciate you going through those things, you asking him that question, because I think sometimes the feeling of helplessness almost becomes more crippling for people than anything else, because you feel like you can't do anything to help.
Sure.
And so then you end up doing nothing, right? And like I said, hurt people. And so healthy people help healthy people be healthy, right? They help those hurt people out of that pit. And it's hard to help someone who's hurt or hurting out of a pit if you yourself are stuck way down in that pit,
And that's one of the things you mentioned, is
yourself.
that taking your focus off yourself and
Yeah.
and being in a place where you're going to serve and uplift somebody else. That's gonna help pull you out of the pit as well. So.
Well, right, and I can testify to exercise. So at one point I was 305 pounds, overweight, and felt disgusting, right? And I lost 60 pounds and felt 1,000 times better. And so obviously, my hope is to drop more. But like, I notice a huge difference, not just in how I feel physically, but mentally, emotionally, of just some of the freedom I've felt in that. And it's not like huge epiphanies or anything like that. It's just more enjoyment, more at peace as well. Like, exercise is no small thing. Paul could eat pretty much whatever he wanted. He'd still be thin, but he wouldn't necessarily be fit. And Paul Turk, our senior pastor, he bikes all over the place. I don't know if you saw you're not on Facebook, but he did a fundraiser where he biked, I think, 250 miles in a month.
A lot.
I think it was 250.
More than I did.
He biked 250 miles in the month of April. which is just, a lot. To raise money for veterans, if I remember correctly. And but he practices, exercise. And when I first came here, he preached that to me all the time. You got to exercise. You got to exercise. And I'm a decently active person, but I always knew I could do more. And then started having kids and things like that. And I noticed I literally gained 10 pounds per kid. So I came here at about 260, and we had 4 kids basically, and with each kid I gained like another 10 pounds. So
that's sympathy weight, right?
Right. Right. Exactly. Stress, busyness, all that kind of stuff, and then letting that be excuses. So just exercise. I'm glad you brought that up, because that is, I think, one of those things that, like, I battle too. I'm already tired. Exercise is going to make me more tired. So why would I exercise? Which is a complete lie. Yeah. It's not true at all. Yet it's the truth we choose to believe.
Well, and you don't have to like bear down and do an hour of exercise every day.
No, right.
No, it doesn't take that much to
cut yourself some slack and do 15 minutes of some cardio.
Do some major
go walk with your family. So
that's good.
Right on. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on this thing and
I got one more thing.
Oh, okay.
One more bonus footage.
Oh, I love this. Okay, hit it.
So my the quote that I have on my business cards and my website is the best way out is always through. And that's a Robert Frost quote, which he's, I don't know how he's doing with the Lord. He's dead now, so it's over. Anyways.
We don't know how it ended, though.
We don't know how it ended, so I hope he's doing well. But anyways, I like that quote, especially for Eastern Montana. I'm blown away by how much resilience people have. I've been through a lot of difficult things, and they just limp along. Like, they just push through. But if people want to actually feel better and grow, those kind of things, they have to face and go through.
I mean, there's no shortcut. We can't just skip it.
It really just seems like they self-medicate through distraction, simply.
Yeah. Right.
And I know there's a lot of Christians that do that. Yeah. I'm not going to accuse them of sinning or something, but I do think that they could be experiencing life more abundantly. Yeah. If they would go through and press through.
James 1 speaks to that directly.
Sure.
Take pure joy, my brothers, when you face trials of many kinds, because it's the testing of your faith that develops perseverance. I mean,
right.
You can't develop perseverance unless you push through,
right,
and push into that trial. Yeah.
So that would be my encouragement to those viewing or listening. If there are things that happened in childhood or stuff that you just really try to avoid talking about or thinking about. There are ways to feel better, you don't have. I'm not trying to drum up business for myself. I'm already full anyway. But yeah,
dropping knowledge.
If you want to do something about it, a counseling is a great tool for 100%. That to get that going, and you'll have someone to walk through that with you. So that would be my encouragement for you.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's literally what's on my mind. This is why we invited you on here is, I think counseling always has this stigma attached to it. And thankfully, I feel like our society is starting to move a little bit away from that. Definitely when I was younger, you didn't tell people you went to a counselor. That means you're weak, or that means you're not sufficient, or you got issues. Right? When the reality is, like a different mentor of mine, regularly on an annual basis, he'll go see a counselor 2 or 3 times a week for a month every year. It's just part of his yearly rhythm to be healthy, to weed through maybe some resentment things, or things maybe he's holding on to, or bitterness, or whatever, repressed things that maybe are lingering, whatever, and have a professional dig some of that stuff out intentionally and work through it, like you said.
And it might feel like going to the dentist,
right?
But
getting a tooth,
or getting the the semi-annual flossing, where they shred your gums. I'm pretty gentle on the counseling flossing, but
water pick.
Yeah.
I think it's an incredibly healthy thing, and that again, that's why Ben and I talked. We wanted you on here because we want everyone to know, like you said, listening, watching, that counseling is for everybody. We all have issues and things that we need to work through and deal with. And so I really honestly cherish your time of being on this and being with us and
It's good to be here.
sharing your life, sharing what God's doing. And obviously we want you to continue to have success and continue to see God bring victory through your, not only your work, but your ministry. And so thank you for joining us. And if anyone listening, watching needs counseling help, I highly recommend Rob Schwab. And I've referred many to you, and I will continue to do so. So I don't know, Ben, if you had anything last final thoughts before we wrap up.
I think this was super interesting. It was educational for me, and in some ways inspiring. I'm thinking about all the things that I want to change now. About my lifestyle. But I will say that I would expect that you're going to get another invite or two from us. So over the next period of time,
100%.
We'd love to talk to you about maybe
Just
some other
the tip of the
facets of what you do, and obviously you do a lot of relationship type counseling as well. We really didn't dive into a lot of that too much, so I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit yet to be talked about. So
100%.
Yeah.
So
great.
Right on. Well, hey everybody, thank you for joining us for episode 3 of season 2 Onward and Upward podcast, and we'll catch you next time.